Hi everyone. Now let's talk about for loops. A for loop is also a loop like a do while loop or a while loop, and the only difference is the way it executes. So we'll see how a for loop is initialized and how a for loop executes. The syntax of the for loop is as follows. So we have a keyword which is for, and then we have an opening bracket, and then we have a closing bracket. And after that, we have these curly braces which specifies the body of the for loop. Now within these brackets, or I can say within these parentheses, we have three parts. The first part is initialization. Now in this part, you can initialize anything. You can initialize a variable, a list, a map, a set, anything. The second part is the condition, because when you want to execute the lines of code multiple times, and you want to execute these lines of code until the condition is true, correct? So this is that condition. And the third part is the operation. Operation is basically what operation you want to perform after each iteration is complete. Let's understand this with an example. If you remember in the previous tutorials, we talked about while loops and do while loops. And in both the cases, we displayed the value of I. So if you remember in case of while as well, we displayed the value of I from I is equal to 1 to I is equal to 6. Similarly, in case of do while loop as well, we displayed the value of I and we gave an initial value, and until a condition we were incrementing I and we displayed the value of I. So we are going to take up the same scenario and we are going to do this or implement this in case of for loops. So what do we have here? We are following the syntax. So we have the keyword for, and then we have an opening bracket and we have a closing bracket. And after that we have these opening and closing curly braces which basically consist of, or I can say which forms the body of the loop. Inside the body of the loop, I have a single statement which is saying value of I is equal to, and then I'm displaying the value of this variable which is I. Now what do we have inside the parenthesis of the for loop? We have three parts, right? The first part is initialization. Now as I said, you can initialize anything here. So what are we doing? We are initializing an integer variable I, and the initial value of I is 1. In the second part, we have the condition. So I want to run this loop until I is less than 6. Okay, so that is my condition. The third part is the operation. And in the operation, we are saying we want to increment the value of variable I. And if you see, all these three parts are separated by semicolons. So first of all, I have the initialization, then a semicolon, then I have condition, then a semicolon, and then I have the operation. Let's execute this code first, and then we'll see how this is working. So I'm going to execute the code from here till here. I'm getting the output as value of I is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4 until 5. Okay. Now how this works is, first of all, we have the initialization. So I can say initialization is the first step. Okay. So first of all, it will initialize. So this is the second step. So what it did, it initialized the variable I is equal to 1. Then it checked the condition. Is I less than 6? So we can say is 1 less than 6? This is true, correct? In case the condition is true, the third step is executing the body of the loop. So we'll execute the body. So the body of the loop is executed and we are saying value of I is equal to the current value of I. And the current value of I is 1, right? So we are getting value of I is equal to 1. So this statement is printed. Then the fourth step is the operation. So what happened is this operation executed and the operation which executed is I++. So the value of I, which was 1, is now 2. Now what will happen? After operation, it will again come to the condition and it will check is the condition true or false. So after I++, the value of I is 2. It will come to the condition and it will check is I less than 6. So I can say is 2 less than 6. This is correct, right? So what will happen? After condition, it will go to step number 3 again and it will execute the code. The code is value of I is equal to I. And here I am getting value of I is equal to 2. So this line is printed. Now after the code is executed, it will again go to operation. And this cycle will continue again and again until the condition is true. So after the code is executed, it goes to operation and operation says I++. So the value of I is incremented to 3, right? After that, what will happen? It will again come to condition. So it will check is I less than 6? Is 3 less than 6? This is true. So we are getting value of I is equal to I. Value of I is equal to 3. After that, it again goes to operation. So I++, value of I is now 4. Then again it comes to condition. So we are getting I less than 6. Is 4 less than 6? This is true, correct? True. So it is coming inside the loop and it is executing the body of the loop. The body of the loop says value of I is equal to I. So value of I is equal to 4. Now this statement is printed. After that, it again goes to operation. So the operation is I++, value of I is now 5. Then again it comes to condition. Now in this condition we are checking is I less than 6. So is 5 less than 6? This is also true, right? What will happen? It will go inside the loop and it will print value of I is equal to I. So value of I is equal to 5. Then it again goes to operation and operation says I++. So the value of I is 6 now. After operation, it will again come to condition. So it will check is I less than 6, or I can say is 6 less than 6. Now is this condition true or false? This is false, right? Now because this condition is false, it won't go inside the body of the loop. So this step where it is going inside the body of the loop, this won't happen, okay? And it will come out of the loop. So after this condition is false, it will come out of the loop and will execute the code from here. So this is how a for loop works. So I can say if I consider these numbers 1, 2, 4 and 3, what is happening? The flow is that first of all step 1 is executed, then step 2 is executed, which is checking the condition. If the condition is true, then it will go inside the loop and step 3 is executed and then step 4 is executed. And after step 4, it again comes to step 2. And from 2 it will go to 3, from 3 it will go to 4, from 4 it will come to 2 again. So this is how a for loop is working, okay? I hope this is clear. Now let's move ahead. I want to take one more example. As I told you, right, that in case of initialization, it can be anything, right? You can initialize multiple variables, you can initialize list, set, map, anything. So this is just a similar example where I'm initializing two variables. So I'm saying integer I is equal to 1 and j is equal to 0. So I have two variables here which are comma separated and which are both integers. So I'm saying I is equal to 1, j is equal to 0, okay? And then I'm saying value of I is equal to I and j is equal to j. Let's execute this code and let's see how it works. Now if you see what is happening, we are getting value of I is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is the same like we had in earlier loop, right? Because I is incrementing. So the value of I is different because we are incrementing I, right? But if you see, the value of j is still the same. So the value of j was initialized to 0 initially and it is not incremented anywhere, right? I is incremented here, but j is not being incremented anywhere, which is why value of j is 0 throughout the loop. So this is how this loop is working, and I hope this is clear to you. So far what we have learned about traditional for loops. So this kind of syntax of a for loop is called a traditional for loop, okay? Where we have initialization, we have condition, and we have operation. Now let's talk about how we can use for loop to iterate a list or a set. Because using for loops, you can also iterate over all the elements of a list or a set. In the previous tutorial, we talked about how we can add elements to a list using a loop, right? So we talked about this in the while loop tutorial. But we can also use loops to iterate over a list and to access each and every element of the list one by one. We can do it using the traditional syntax as well, and we can do it using a different syntax as well, which is supported in the for loop. So this syntax is specifically for iterating over a list or a set, or I can say any kind of collection. How it works is, we have a keyword which is for, and then inside the brackets, instead of having initialization, condition and operation, what we have a variable, then we have this column, and then we have the list or set, or I can say the collection over which we want to iterate, okay? Let's consider an example, it will be more clear to you. So what we have here, we have a set of integer which is numbers, and this is a new set of integer, and the initial value of this set, or I can say the initial elements that are inside the set are numbers from 1 to 10, okay? So we have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So these are the initial numbers which are present inside the set. Now what we want to do, we want to iterate over this set and we want to access each and every element of the set one by one, okay? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, like this. So what we can do, we use the for loop, and here we said the keyword for, and within brackets, first of all, we have to define a variable. Now the variable should be of the same type as the type of my collection. So here if you see, we have a set of integer, which is why we defined the integer variable. Because what is the goal? The goal is to access the elements of the collection one by one, right? So in order to store, or I can say access the element of a collection, the data type of the element should be the data type of my variable. So if my element is integer, then the variable should also be an integer. Because let's say if I'm storing integers here and I want to access a particular integer, then it should be stored in a variable of type integer, correct? In case it was a string, or I can say if I had a set or a list of strings, then the variable should have a data type which is string. So this variable's data type should be the same as a data type of my list or set, or I can say the data type of my collection, which is why I'm saying integer num. Then we have a colon. So we have a colon here, and then we have the name of list or set. So my set name is, or I can say the name of my collection is numbers. So I'm saying numbers. After that, inside the body of the loop, I have a single line which is saying current element of set is equal to, and then I'm displaying the value of my number variable. So what will happen? This for loop will automatically assign each and every element one by one to this number variable, and the body of the loop will be executed each and every time. So let's say if I have 10 elements inside my list, this for loop will automatically run 10 times, or I can say for each and every number or for each and every element of my list or set, and it will assign the current value, or I can say the current element which is being accessed inside the collection to this variable, and then the body of the loop will execute. Let's execute this and it will be more clear. So what we can do, we can execute this code, and if you see, this is the output which we are getting. So if you see in this output, we are displaying current element of set is equal to, current element of set is equal to, and then it is the value of the number. Okay, the number variable which we have defined right here. Now the value of number variable is different for each iteration of the loop, and it varies from 1 to 10 because these are the numbers which are present in my set, correct? So what is happening is, out of this collection, each element is assigned to the variable one by one, and then the body of the loop is being executed. So what happened was, first of all, the number 1 was assigned to this variable num, and then the body of the loop is executed. So we are getting current element of set is equal to 1. After that, number 2 was assigned to this variable num, and we are getting current element of set is equal to num. So we are getting current element of set is equal to 2. Then what happened? Number 3 was assigned to variable num, and we are getting current element of set is equal to num. So we are getting current element of set is equal to 3. So this is how it is working. One by one, each element of the list or set, or I can say collection, is assigned to this variable which we have defined right here, and then the body of the loop is executed. In the body of the loop, we are saying current element of set is equal to, and we are displaying the value of our variable, which is why we are getting all the values from 1 to 10, one by one. Now, I want to mention one small point here, which is adding or removing elements during a collection is not allowed. I think this should be while iterating a collection, okay? So while you are iterating a collection, then adding or removing elements to that collection is not allowed. Because we can add or remove elements as well. So we have seen this before, that we can add elements to a collection using a loop. But you cannot do that if you're iterating the same collection, because it might result in an infinite loop, right? For example, let's say here I am saying numbers.add, and I want to add an element, let's say 11, like this. So what may happen is, so this is a set, so it will have unique elements, but let's say if it was a list, then what might happen is it will keep on adding 11 again and again until the loop is executing. So what we are doing is we are iterating the same collection, and we are adding new numbers to the same collection as well. So this might result in an infinite loop, which might be the reason that this is not allowed. Let's try executing this to see the error. So if you see, we are getting the error which is saying System.FinalException cannot modify a collection while it is being iterated. So what can be the use case that you want to modify a collection while it is being iterated? So it might be possible that you want to get a subset of collection, right? So let's say you want to remove 4 or 5 from this collection, and you want to only get the numbers from 1 to 10 except 4 or 5, okay? So you want to remove the elements which are present at index number 4 or index number 5. Or maybe you want to add some elements based on some condition inside the loop. So when things become complex, it might be possible that you want to add to collection or remove from a collection while iterating through the collection. So what you can do, you can create a new collection. So let's say instead of numbers, I can say I want to create a new set. Let's say set of integer numbers 1, and this set can be empty initially. So I can say new set of integer, like this. So what I can do is, instead of adding the number 11 to the same collection, I can modify this separate collection instead. Okay. Don't worry too much about this now. It will be more clear when we talk about different scenarios. But for now, you can just understand that modification of a collection while it is being iterated is not allowed. So in this tutorial, we learned about for loops, and we also learned about different syntaxes of for loop, like the traditional syntax and the iteration syntax. I hope this tutorial was clear to you. Let me know your feedback in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time.